Hello, class. Welcome to It Is Not Greek to Me. You are a very unusual pupil. Why? Do you know how many Christians take the time to study biblical Greek? Answer, not many. You are very rare indeed, and I want to applaud you for taking the time to go deeper into the language that our New Testament was written in. Let me tell you who I am. My name is Todd Friel, but if you don't mind, I prefer being called Mr. Friel. I've just always wanted to do that. And you are looking at the single worst Greek student in the history of Greek. And if you're asking yourself the question, then why are you teaching me about biblical Greek when you are such a rotten student? It's because I know from experience what it is like to study Greek and be in a complete mist. For 4 years, I sat in Greek class going, just panting to try to catch up. That is why this Greek primer is going to teach you enough so that the Greek language is understandable to you. That's why we are calling Lesson 1, Don't Memorize, Just Get It. You're not going to be memorizing a ton of stuff. You are not going to be spending hours going, oh, I've got to learn all of these endings. Instead, you're just going to get the Greek language so that if you are a lay person, you'll be able to get the language and understand the language so that you can use commentaries better, understand sermons better. Or if you're going to be a first-year Greek student, this is a perfect primer or primer for studying first-year Greek. A great Greek textbook, by the way, for studying first-year Greek is Bill Mounce. He's like the Greek guy. If it's Greek, it's Bill Mounce. He's the man. This is supposed to be used before you study Bill Mounce's work. It's just going to help you to understand the language. This was my Greek textbook, my first-year Greek textbook. And if you'll notice, I didn't get it into this shape from kicking it down the street, although many times I wanted to. It's because I was constantly flipping and turning to understand words and what is it? What are they talking about? What's a declension? And I was constantly utilizing this thing because I simply didn't get Greek. You are going to get Greek so that when you start using a Greek textbook like this, you can go, oh, I got it. That's perfect. Let me read to you. I kid you not. Look at this. This is Lesson 1. You don't trust me? This is Lesson 1. I'm simply going to read to you Lesson 1. So typically, you'd walk into a first-year Greek course, and you'd open up your book, and this is what you would get hit by. 1, declensions. There are 3 declensions in Greek instead of 5, as in Latin. Who knew? To these, because of their general uniformity, the O stems serve as a good introduction. You following along? Hold on. It gets even foggier. In nouns of the O declension, an acute on the ultima in the nominative is changed to a circumflex in the genitive and dative of both numbers. And I sat there going, I don't know what any of these words mean. By the time you are done with It Is Not Greek to Me, you are going to understand everything that you just heard. Once again, let me applaud you. Not many Christians desire to do this. This is going to be hard. It's a little bit dry and toasty, but it is going to be worth it. Let me tell you what you're not going to learn in this course. 1, you're not going to be able to translate. Now don't forget, translating and interpreting are 2 different words. Translating is taking the original language and putting it into the language that you understand. That's your first language, your principal language. Interpreting is telling what it means. You're not going to learn how to translate nor interpret. Interpreting is a whole different field of study. By the way, Herman, who is a wonderful DVD course for that. Second, you're not going to learn vocables. Vocables is a fancy word for vocabulary. You are not going to be sitting there memorizing vocable, word after word after word after word, like a typical first-year student would. That's not what is in view here. You're just going to get the language. And number 3, you're not going to have to memorize a bunch of endings. Now, right now, you don't know what endings are, but basically, the Greek language is a language of endings. In English, if we want to give more detail on an activity by using a verb, for instance, if I want to go down the hall to go get something, I have to take the word go and then say, I will be going, there's my word go, down the hall. Well, in Greek, they don't do that. They take the word go, they put a different ending on it, and then it loads it up with meaning, telling you exactly how that verb is to be understood. It's a language of endings, a lot of them, and you're not going to have to memorize those. And that's a good thing, because that's a beastly chore. Because the view of this project is not for you to memorize a bunch of stuff so you can translate. It is so you can get it. Now, let me tell you the things that you will get out of this so that this is worth your time. Number one, you're going to learn how to read Greek. You'll be able to open up your Greek New Testament, and you're going to, look, this thing right here. This is a typical Greek New Testament right here. When you're done with this, in fact, in a few chapters, you're going to be able to read that out loud and impress everybody in your Sunday school or Bible study. You will be the most spiritual person in your small group. You're going to learn how to read it. Number two, you will learn how to speak the Greek language. Keep in mind, modern Greek, a little different than the Koine Greek that we're going to be learning, but you're still going to learn how to speak Greek. In other words, you'll never say gyros again. Number three, you're going to understand how Greek works. Here's kind of our battle cry for this whole program. This is a Greek word right here. You maybe recognize it if you've got a pair of tennis shoes that are way overpriced. Nike, this is the Greek word, Nike, Nikes, hey. Nike, do you hear the word? What is their slogan? Just do it. Ours is just get it. Just get it. When I go through a bunch of stuff, and we're going to get into oodles of details, and you're going to start looking like I did in college, you're just, this is just a miss to me. Come out of the fog. I don't want you in the fog. I want you to just get it. Number four, you're going to learn how to use a concordance. That's right, this big beastie book, you are going to learn how to use. Now, most likely, you know how to use the front part of it. I want to look up the word Babylon, all the words that use the word Babylon. You go look up the word Babylon, and you can just find all the verses where the word Babylon is found in your Bible. But if you go to the back, basically, what you've got here is a Greek dictionary. You'll be able to use this beast when we are done. The other thing that you'll be able to use is a lexicon, which quite honestly, that's the same thing as a Greek dictionary. But if you have one of these, you'll be able to open this thing up. This will actually make sense to you when you're done, because I am your host, Carol Merrill. Dated references for 500 Alex. Next, your English will get gooder. Why? You study a language in detail. Your grammar will simply improve, because we're going to have to go through English grammar before we can get to Greek grammar. I know, pinch me, this is very exciting. Number seven, you're going to recognize Greek roots of English words. If you start using your lexicon, your concordance, which is the Greek dictionary in the back, you're going to start to recognize, hey, wait a second, I see the relationship between that word and that word. Greek is a language that we in English have borrowed from a ton. For instance, the Greek word for work is ergon. Ergonomics? How's about for brother? You ever been to Philadelphia? By the way, it's brotherly love. You're going to start to see some of those connections and those relationships. Number eight, you'll be able to check the original scriptures to check what the preacher is saying. By studying just enough Greek to be dangerous, which is what you're going to be when this is done, you will be able to listen to a preacher and go, hey, wait a second, I just looked this up. That's not the word at all. Hey, he ripped that out of context. You'll be better equipped to check false teaching. Number nine, commentaries will come alive. If you read a commentary that goes a little bit deeper and it goes into the Greek language, you're going to go, hey, I know what that means. Kids, get in here. Your daddy can tell you what that is. Very exciting. Number 10, you're going to understand your pastor. Once in a while, perhaps your pastor will sling something out there in Greek, and normally it would be sitting on the back wall of the church because it just goes right over everybody's head. It's not going to go over your head anymore. When he says, you see the verb is in the passive, and that's why your salvation is entirely based on the work of the Lord. You're going to go, passive. I know what he's talking about, because you made it through this torturous program. Also, you will see the fullness of time. Jesus came in the fullness of time. This is one of the big fullness of times meaning you will see the brilliance of God in selecting this language. 8th century BC. That was classical Greek, very high Greek, very specific Greek. That really was from the time, the Platos and the Homers, all the way down to the 4th century. Greek was classical Greek, but along came a guy named Philip of Macedonia who took over Greece. He had a son named Alexander who studied with Aristotle. Are you keeping up with this? And he decided that he wanted to Hellenize, which is the Greek word for Greek. He wanted to Greek the world. He wanted to bring culture, art, and language everywhere. So that's about the 4th century. Alexander brings classical Greek, a very highfalutin Greek, to the world. And what happens when you bring in one language into another language? Well, the one language is going to get kind of watered down a little bit. It's going to become street Greek, which is exactly what you're going to learn, street Greek. The word is Koine Greek. That's the type of Greek you're going to learn, and it's very specific, and it's very precise, and it's very good for theology. Hebrew, not so much. Besides, very spittly, very chachi, and it makes a mess of the camera lens. Greek, very specific, very pretty language, very detailed, because theology in the New Testament far more in view than just historical events in the Old. What will you learn? Finally, you are going to learn to love Jesus more. That's right. You'll learn to love Jesus more. Why? Because you're going to understand your Bible more. You're going to understand Scriptures more. And who are the Scriptures about? It's about Jesus. So you'll learn more about Jesus. You'll learn more about the Word. You're going to love Him more. Now, just in case you're not completely invested in this yet, let me share with you a wonderful example of how important it is that you are doing what you're doing. Prepare to see the brilliance of God in selecting the Greek language. This is John 1:1, a verse that Jehovah's Witnesses like to use to prove that Jesus isn't God. John 1:1, you're going to recognize some of this. Don't worry, you're going to learn the letters in our next lesson. N in archaic, in the beginning was the, this is a definite article, the Word, logos. You recognize that. That's Jesus. In the beginning was the Word. Conjunctive, junctive. What's your function? I guess it's conjunction, junction. I should have watched more PBS. Kai, and the Word with the God. This is the contested part. And God was the Word. Normally, you would read that and you go, wait a second, and the Word was God. But in the Greek, it's and God was the Word. And definite articles makes all the difference in the world between Orthodox theology and heresy. And God, this is our past tense, was the Word. In Greek, if you put a definite article in front of a noun and any nouns before it don't have a definite article, it's screaming, this is the attention of this. This is it. This is the subject. Pay attention. So the author, John, wanted you to know this is about Jesus. This is about the Word. So it's the subject of the sentence. God was the Word. Really, slam dunk, case over for the Jehovah's Witnesses, but it's even more detailed than that. There's a heresy called Sabellianism. It was defeated 17 centuries ago that teaches that God is one, manifesting Himself in 3 persons, so that Jesus and the Father and the Holy Spirit are all one together. That's not Trinitarian theology, and this verse defeats it. You see, because this has a definite article, the Word Jesus was God, it's saying that Jesus is God, but He's not the Father. Wait, it's even more brilliant than that. There's a heresy called Arianism that teaches that Jesus isn't God, but because there is a definite article in front of this word and not this word, it proves that Jesus is God. So in these words, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words, you defeat 2 heresies, Sabellianism and Arianism. That is the brilliance of God in choosing this language. I applaud you for taking the time and the energy to study it. When we're done, you're going to learn a ton of stuff like this. You will love the Word more, and you will love Jesus more. That is the end of Lesson 1. Get ready for Lesson 2. You're going to be learning yourself some Greek. Seriously? You came back. Welcome to Lesson 2 of It's Not Greek to Me. Get ready. You are now going to learn how to read and speak the Greek alphabet. That means the next time you are on a college campus in a minivan with your family driving down Frat Row, you're going to be able to impress the kids by saying, look kids, it's the Gamma Delta Epsilon house. They'll be so impressed. But better than that, you are going to be able to actually read your Greek New Testament. Now, have some bad news for you. Not everybody pronounces the Greek alphabet the same way. That's kind of bad news. But it's also very good news. Because if you ever say something wrong and a Greek scholar tags you on it, you can just say, well, I just learned it a little differently than you. Why is it different in different schools depending on where you study it? Don't forget, we had classical Greek, 8th to the 4th century BC. Then it became Koine, street Greek, which is the New Testament form of Greek, and we don't have any tape recorders from 2,000 years ago to know exactly how to pronounce everything, so you're going to hear some differences. From me, you're going to hear a little bit more of a German pronunciation on some of these words because I learned it from a German. Those differences, they are expected and accepted in Greek, so don't panic over it. Here we go. This is going to be the hardest thing you have to learn here, and it's not Greek to me. But if you don't put in the time to memorize the symbols, you won't be reading, you won't be speaking any Greek. Here we go. The alphabet. Do you know where we get the word alphabet from? It's from the 2 first letters in the Greek language. How cool is that? Here we go. You got yourself alpha right there. You got, well, that's the fish symbol, which means the first letter is saved or drives really recklessly. You'd think that it's pronounced alpha because we go alphabet. Well, no, it's actually pronounced more like an ah sound, as in father, sort of a shorter sound. Now, I've got a box around it because that is a short sound as opposed to a longer sound. The A sound, which you'll learn later, and the O sound, those are long. This is a shorter sound. By the way, it's also, there's a difference between a closed and an open vowel, depending on how open your throat needs to be or how closed your throat needs to be. Alpha, alpha, your throat is open. But if you get to an I sound, your throat is closed. Just a little difference between the vowels. So you've got alpha. Remember, you don't have to worry about the alpha part. You just need to worry about the first sound of the letter. Beta, that's a b, b, b sound. Gamma, g, g, gamma. Suddenly I'm a PBS program. Delta, d, d, delta. Now, when you look at this isn't so intimidating, is it? You can sort of see the A symbol there. You can definitely see the B symbol there. Kind of the G, if you put a little circle there, kind of a hangman sad face there. You'd get yourself a G. There you can see your D. Epsilon, another short sound for us. It looks like an E, doesn't it? See, this isn't so bad. Oh, wait, there's the Zeta. This one is different. This kind of looks like a 5 with a little swoosh on the end of it. It's a TS sound, Zeta. Eta, it looks like an N, and your V is going to actually be an N, but this looks like an N, but it's an A sound. Eta, as in play. Let's play eta. Theta, circle, and just one swoosh, by the way. With almost all of these, you can do it with your pen on the page just one time. The theta is a th sound, pronounced theta. Yoda, this is one of those shorter ones, I sound, so this is an I, yota, as in tip. Kappa, kappa, k. Look at this. This isn't that bad, is it? I, K. L, this is sort of like an L, kind of, only a little bit on the different side. That's pronounced lambda or lambda, depending on who you learn it from. Here's where it does get indeed a little bit on the different side. The difference between, this is the M and the N. Okay, some pronounce it a mu, some pronounce it a nu. I learned it from a German, so I got a little umlaut on mine. I learned me, ni. Mu, nu, or me, ni, either way. Of course, the right way is the way that I learned it. So just go with that. Me, ni, xi. I got no tricks on this one, other than it's just kind of a kind of a fancy E, but it's a x sound. Don't worry, believe me, if you were learning Hebrew, you'd be chuchin' all over the place. And then you've got yourself an omicron, as in top. This is a short O. When you get to the end, this W is an omega. That is a long sound, as in Pope. So let's just walk our way through this one more time, all right? Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta. I've never done this before, so let's see how this works out. Yoda, kappa, lambda, mi, ni, xi, omicron. Probably never going to be on contemporary Christian radio. Let's keep going, shall we? Here's your pi sound, pi. You've seen the symbol, which of course is 20. It's around 20. That's what it means in science. P, rho. This is an R. Rho is how it's pronounced, the r sound. Sigma. Now there's two S's, if you will. It's an O with a little flag on the top, I guess. That is if the word is, the letter S is in the beginning of the word or inside of the middle of the word. But if the S comes on the end of the word, don't ask me who did this. It becomes more like our S. Only at the end is the sigma going to look like that. Tau, your T sign, or like if you're Buddhist, it could maybe mean something. Ipsilon, this is like as in deja vu, it's a little bit different than Yoda. Yoda sounds like ip. Is a little bit of a different sound. So it's just a little bit longer of an kind of a combination. Don't panic. You got yourself a phi, which is a F sound, as in Mr. Friel. Xi, it's a he sound. It's kind of a he thing. And when we start going through some of the words, this will just start flying. Don't panic, but you've got to memorize. This is a he. Psi, so it's a PS sound. PS, so it's pronounced psi. This is a psi. You're probably going to get it confused maybe with a theta. If you're going to goof this one up, it'll probably be with psi, maybe your epsilon too. Psi, and then finally omega is an O. Omega, so that's your complete alphabet, 24. Are you ready? Here we go. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mi, ni, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, epsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. Yeah, pretty close. All right, now your job, when we're done with this lesson, is to sit there and just drill and kill it. Now, for bonus points, you're going to do the capitals also. I haven't put those up on the board, but they're in your workbook. You'd be wise to learn the capitals also. They're not used a ton. They look a lot like just grown-up little letters. You'll be able to figure it out pretty easily, but I would encourage you to learn those also. They sound exactly the same way, duh, just like they are in English. They're just bigger, that's all. They look a little bit different here and there, so learn those also. But you've definitely got to learn the alphabet. Otherwise, it's just a complete bust. Now, there's a couple of other things that you need to learn about the Greek alphabet. You need to learn, everybody, turn to the person next to you and say, diphthongs, or don't. Diphthongs are vowel combinations, two vowels that are put together. You've got yourself regular and irregular. Let's make our way through the proper diphthongs. Two vowels put together. Here's your alpha and your iota, pronounced I. You're going to need to learn this, by the way. You need to learn the diphthongs, because if you don't learn the diphthongs, you won't know how to pronounce the Greek words when you see them in combination. Now, note this. Not every vowel combination in a word is a diphthong. A diphthong, two vowels pronounced in one sound. Sometimes, however, you're going to see two vowels that require two sounds. That's why you're going to have to memorize the diphthongs. Our first one, if you recall, the alpha and our little Thailand, iota, Thailand. Now you've got yourself an epsilon, iota, pronounced A as in freight. Oi, omicron, iota again as in Illinois. Alpha, epsilon, cow, ow. Can't wait to show this to the kids. Oi as in oil, epsilon. You've got your eta, epsilon, which again is oil, or these two pretty much pronounced the same way. Again, because we don't have an 8-track from 2,000 years ago, we don't know exactly the nuance here. There must have been a difference. The Greeks were smart. They wouldn't have done it if there wasn't some sort of a difference. This is probably a slightly longer sound, but basically oil. And then soup, omicron, epsilon, ooh is the sound effect. And then epsilon, iota, E is what this sound makes. E as in queen. Please learn your proper diphthongs. However, you got yourself some irregular diphthongs. This one's really nothing to worry about. This is an improper diphthong. There's only 3 of them, alpha, eta, and omega. See the difference? A little iota. It's called a iota subscript. It goes underneath the vowel. Here's the good news. It doesn't change the pronunciation at all. Why did they put it there? Just to make our lives miserable. I can think of no other reason. The reason that I point this out to you, though, is you're going to see this, and it might throw you as you go about reading Greek, and you're going to go, well, what's that doing down there? It's called a iota subscript. It does not affect the pronunciation of our alpha, our eta, and our omega. They're improper. rightly so. Just note it, okay? Now, you have heard the Greek alphabet. Here's your assignment. Get on it. Take however much time you need until you can get to the point where you can sing it just like me, or hopefully better. Then take a look at your capitals. Then memorize your proper diphthongs. Get that done, and then join us for Lesson 3. Well, well, well. You made it through Lesson 2. How did you do? Did you learn your Greek alphabet? Before we get to punctuation and actually speaking the language together, let's do a little review, shall we? I'm in good voice. Let's do it together. Why don't you say this with me, okay? Just so that we're all on the same page. Maybe if you went to some internet site, you maybe had a slightly different pronunciation. That's okay. Let's just do it together because it's the first sound of the letter that we're looking for, not this part. We're looking for the first sound. So alpha, beta. I'm sorry, you're not singing with me. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Come on, church! Epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda. I do me, you can do mu. You say mu, I say me. Nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, epsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. Now let's do it again, just to make sure we're on the same page. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, or mi, ni, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, epsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. Where's the bouncing ball when you need it? Don't forget your diphthongs. Let's do them together. This sound makes an I sound, as in Thailand. A sound, oi, as in Illinois. Cow, ow, 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 ow sound. Oi sound, it's pretty similar, oi sound. I don't think you run into this one very much though, honestly. Oo sound, and then an E sound. Those are your proper diphthongs. Don't worry about those little iota subscript bad boys. It doesn't change the pronunciation. Now, you've memorized, way to go, you've memorized the Greek